Faust, Unravelling the Great Enigma, the Scholar with the Lamp. But ne'er from heart to heart you'll speak inspiring, save your own heart is eloquent. Welcome back to Faust, Unravelling the Great Enigma. In our previous episode, we left Faust at one of the most devastating moments in all of literature. Alone in his study, surrounded by the books and instruments that had occupied a lifetime of learning, he dared to summon the earth spirit. For one breathtaking moment, he believed he had touched the very essence of creation itself. Then came the reply, "Thou art like the spirit, which thou comprehendest, not me." And the spirit vanished. Faust stood alone. His great vision was over almost before it had begun. The revelation he sought had slipped through his fingers, and for the first time he was forced to confront a painful truth. Perhaps he was not as great as he imagined. Then Goethe does something quite unexpected. The door opens, not to another spirit, not to an angel, not to a demon. Instead, a man quietly enters. Goethe's stage direction is wonderfully simple. He writes, "Enter Wagner, in dressing gown and nightcap, a lamp in his hand." I have to confess, I smiled when I first slowed down long enough to notice those words. A dressing gown, a nightcap, a lamp. What an extraordinary entrance! Only moments earlier, Faust had been reaching toward the infinite. He had stood before a cosmic power beyond human comprehension. Now the door opens, and in walks a scholar carrying a small lamp. Why? Why does Goethe choose Wagner? Why not another student? Why not a servant? Why Wagner? Many readers wonder whether Wagner was a real person. As far as we know, he was not. There is no evidence that Goethe modeled Wagner on one particular individual. Yet Wagner feels remarkably real because Goethe spent his life among scholars, professors, scientists, researchers, and intellectuals. He understood their brilliance, their discipline, and sometimes their limitations. Perhaps Wagner is not one man at all. Perhaps he represents an entire tradition of learning. That makes his entrance all the more significant. Goethe does not ridicule Wagner. In fact, Wagner is intelligent, sincere, hardworking, and devoted to knowledge. Goethe himself was one of the most learned men of his age. He loved science, languages, literature, history, and philosophy. This is not a criticism of scholarship. Instead, Goethe places before us two different ways of seeking truth. Wagner believes wisdom comes through careful study. Faust has just discovered that knowledge alone cannot satisfy the deepest longings of the human soul. Listen to Wagner's own words. "Most zealously I seek for erudition. Much do I know, but to know all is my ambition." There is something admirable in those lines. Wagner loves learning. Many of us do. Books have been faithful companions throughout my life. They have introduced me to poets, painters, historians, philosophers, and friends across the centuries. They have opened doors to places I could never have traveled alone. Goethe knew the value of books, but he also knew their limits. The books surrounding Faust have not answered his deepest questions. The university has not satisfied his longing. Even the earth spirit has rejected him. Wagner now stands before him as a living reminder of the life Faust has already lived. Then Faust replies with words that still have the power to stop us in our tracks. What you, the spirit of the ages, call is nothing but the spirit of you all, wherein the ages are reflected. What an astonishing thought! Faust is questioning whether we truly understand the past at all, or whether we simply see ourselves reflected in it. It is a question every generation must ask. When we read Shakespeare, when we read Homer, when we read Goethe, are we discovering them, or are we discovering ourselves? The conversation between Wagner and Faust is not simply a disagreement between two scholars. It is a conversation about the purpose of education itself. What is the difference between information and wisdom? Can books teach us how to live, or must life itself become our teacher? As the conversation continues, Wagner admits that he longs to understand not only the world, but the human heart. His desire is genuine. He wants to know how one can truly move another person. Faust's answer is one of the most passionate speeches in the entire play. It is a passage that has echoed through the centuries because it speaks not only to the scholars, but to every writer, teacher, artist, and storyteller. Listen carefully to his words. You'll ne'er attain it, save you know the feeling. Save from the soul it rises clear, serene in primal strength compelling the hearts and minds of all who hear. You sit forever gluing, patching, you cook the scraps from others' fare, and from your heap of ashes hatching a starveling flame, ye blow it bare. Take children's monkeys, gaze admiring, if such your taste, and be content. But ne'er from heart to heart you'll speak inspiring, save your own heart is eloquent. Faust is telling Wagner that truth cannot simply be repeated. It must first become part of us. Knowledge may fill the mind, but only experience awakens the soul. These are strong words. Faust is not condemning books, nor is he mocking scholarship. He is warning against second-hand living, against merely repeating what others have thought without allowing those ideas to transform our own lives. How modern those words sound. In an age when information surrounds us, Goethe asks a timeless question. Have we truly made this wisdom our own? Then comes the line that has stayed with me ever since I first read it. But ne'er from heart to heart you'll speak inspiring, save your own heart is eloquent. These words are not only Goethe's challenge to Wagner, they are Goethe's challenge to all of us, to every teacher, every writer, every podcaster, every reader, every one of us who hopes to encourage another human being. We cannot simply pass along borrowed wisdom, Before we can speak from heart to heart, our own hearts must first have been changed. Perhaps that is the deepest lesson Wagner has to teach us. That, I think, is why Goethe sends him through the door carrying a lamp. His lamp is real. Its light is genuine. It illuminates the room, but it is still only a human light. Faust has just reached for something infinitely greater. The tragedy is not that Wagner's lamp is false. The tragedy is believing that the lamp is enough. As Wagner quietly leaves the room, he takes the small light with him. Faust is alone once more. The silence returns. The darkness deepens. And it is in that loneliness that some of the most consequential decisions in the entire drama begin to unfold. The path ahead will lead Faust far beyond the safety of books, lectures, and scholarship. It will lead him into experiences that will test not only his intellect, but his soul. Before long, Faust will look upon an object that promises escape from his despair. The door that opened for Wagner will soon open again. Only next time, the visitor will be very different. Until next time, dear friends, thank you for joining me as we continue to unravel one of the greatest mysteries in literature, and perhaps discover something of our own lives along the way. I am Rebecca Budd, and this is Faust, Unraveling the Great Enigma.